What is up, everybody? Today I'm talking about delays and how I use delays to compose parts. Now I should say that I don't really use my delay to compose a part, but for a part like this, for instance, where it's more of kind of a cinematic idea, what I'm wanting is basically movement. So in general, I'm not a big dotted eighth guy, like the edge thing. I mean, I do appreciate that, but in general, the type of delays I like are more just either straight ahead eighths or quarters to embellish the movements or the patterns that I'm playing. So in this case, it's a really straight ahead kind of dark cinematic, you know. So for me, what I'm hearing in my head as I'm composing that is, well, I want the movement with it. So it should probably be eighth notes because I want. And in this case, I guess I would realistically look at this as a fast four. So technically, we're doing quarter notes. That was the idea. Now, if I turn this back on, this is more of like a tape delay. I'm using my Strrymon because that's the delay I have. This applies to really any concept of using a delay. You know, there's so many delays on the market now, I don't really want to focus on that. I want to focus more on just the idea behind the delay and how you can use it to compose parts or embellish parts that you compose. So this is one, you know, idea. And you know, I've got it set up for a lot of repeats. Obviously, if I turn on an overdrive to make it a little bit darker and, you know, spooky or whatever, you know, I have to look at how I've got the delay set now. In some cases, I may want to turn the mix down a bit and actually turn the repeats up and see what that sounds like. That sounds really good. I mean, I find the mistakes I was making with delays is if I wanted to hear more delay, I would just turn the delay up and then wonder why it was enveloping everything I was doing. And I started looking at the idea behind, well, what are the repeats doing? What if I did more repeats and less mix? Would it still sound ambient without taking up so much of the mix? So that's kind of the idea there, especially when we're going with a little bit bigger sound, you know, going from this to this. That's a little bit bigger tone, so you know the delay is going to respond accordingly, and I may have to turn down the mix, maybe just the mix, maybe add repeats, maybe turn down repeats, depending on what's going on. But that's how I treat mix and repeats, even for, you know, solo sounds or whatever. So let me just try something. I'm just going to see if I can build something in real time. You know, and we'll start with maybe just a straight digital delay. So if I did like a, let's see. So I played that sloppy, but what I'm wanting to hear with that I'm wanting to hear eighth notes, and this feels like a 6/8 thing, so it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this case, I'm going to want to have eighths. Oh, look at that. It's just about in time. Close enough. But, you know, I would tap in eighths. So that sounds nice. Let's shut off any modulation. Let me just, you know what, let's just do this. So that, I mean, that sounds pretty good. I just turned the mix up. It's a little too bright. I like to darken up delays. About there. Now it's got a little too much mix. So I just turned up the repeats a little bit. How many repeats we got going here? It's a good amount, but within a mix it'll sound really ambient and sweet, but you can still hear that motion or that syncopated rhythm that I'm wanting. Now this is a digital delay, so let me see if I can get it to sound a little grittier. So I like that grit, but I don't want it as dark now with the grit on it. So once again, we're doing, you know, an eighth note pattern, which sounds great with this. I'm gonna make the delay just a little bit clearer. Sounds pretty good. I don't want it quite as gritty now. That sounds nice. Maybe add a little bit of modulation to it. Now, when I set modulation, I usually turn the depth all the way up first because I want to see what the rate is doing. I don't like a super slow rate, but I don't like a crazy fast one either. And then once I have it set where I want it, then I'll just get the depth, you know, set accordingly. So that sounds really great. Sometimes what I like to do is just go straight to a dual pattern. So in general, dual patterns will come stock on most delays sounding like this. So it's going to be much more ambient, but because I'm not doing a ton of movement in my playing, it'll sound really sweet. Now I'm playing in somewhat of a shuffle feel, but even though this is straight, it'll get buried enough that it'll still sound really nice and ambient. So and we can add a little bit of grit to it with the G2. So I've gone from more of just a straight delay pattern that you hear the repeats giving me, you know, the syncopation, to more of an ambient, almost reverb thing, depending on how I'm playing. thing I do want to add is right now, because I'm running the amp clean enough, I'm doing everything to the front end of the amp, which is what I prefer to do. So that's just the amp. That's the Revv D20. There's a little bit of breakup there, but not enough that when a delay hits it, that it's going to actually break up the channel as well. And even if I add an overdrive before the delay isn't going crazy on me. Now, if I'm doing a lot of overdrive, obviously in the channel, that's when I would go into the effects loop. So everything is essentially post the preamp of the amplifier. So that's how I'm running this. It's basically guitar straight into the Revv G2, into my timeline, straight into the D20, and I'm running the direct out of the D20 using the embedded torpedo software that's in it, straight into my Apogee and right onto the old television set. So that's how I'm running it. Yeah, I just, you know, I know this isn't like this big comprehensive delay thing, but I just wanted to show you guys how I approach using delays. Now with solos, I tend to just, you know, use a slapback delay, but I really wanted to show you guys how I compose when I use delays. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.